Welcome back to the channel and the YZ125 rebuild. Everything has been cleaned up. Gas tank cleaned, stickers taken off the side, engine all cleaned up, top of the cylinder head polished, looks pretty good. Swing arm all cleaned up, radiators all cleaned up, straightened, all the fins straightened. Ooh, those look good. Carb, still need to do that. Boxo parts all cleaned up. Everything re-greased that needs to be re-greased. Kickstarter, re-greased, all good to go. Subframe all cleaned up. Exhaust, cleaned up. I just slapped a couple FMF stickers on there. You can tell it's an FMF pipe. It's got it on the end cap. Header pipe, cleaned and polished up as best as I can. Still have the pile of cables there. The bearings that I removed out of the linkage. Oh my god, they are terrible. These are most likely the stock ones. So, yesterday, with the help of some heat, I tried to remove the bearing races out of there. No go. Let them soak a little PB blaster overnight. Hopefully, we can get those removed. Frame, all cleaned up. Yeah, it's a little rusty. Paint's missing. But we got right here some fresh little foot pegs. Also, all the plastics, forks, seat, wheels and tires, those are all cleaned up. The only thing I'll have to do is clean the seals on those forks, but they're looking good. Today's menu, we're going to rebuild this rear shock with the, what is this, Pivot Works rear shock rebuild kit. Now this is something I haven't personally done before, so we'll see how it goes, learn along the way. Let's get to it. Alright, so one of our first steps, Freshen adjustment screw and the Rebound adjustment screw. So these ones right up here. Basically, unscrew them out all the way. Take note of how many clicks that they're screwed in. So if you listen close, click. Just take note. If you aren't going to mess with valving or anything like that, then write that down. That's all the way out. And our other one up top here, all the way out. And then next, I'm going to release the nitrogen. If you don't have a valve stem remover, you can just use a small screwdriver, get on one side of the valve stem, and essentially just twist it around in there. From here, press on the stem. Oh, there's nothing in this one. That's cool. I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the stem. Next, you're gonna pop this top collar free. Before you go ahead and remove the shock, if you measure what the compressed length the spring is, 10 inches, write that down so that when you put it back together, you have an idea of where everything goes, and you can adjust things from there if need be. Then this one, you're gonna have to loosen up as well. Might as well just go all the way to make life easier. Loosen that up. You can slide the spring down. Now all this junk just drops down. Get that bumper out of there. If I could get that one off. So that one pops free of this this other collar. Slides out. And then you can take that guy off. And then the whole spring can come off. Now we need to go after the dust seal right here. So you've got two little notches on each side. The best thing to use is like a punch. I'm using a nail. Alright, so what we've got now is underneath there, that's what's considered the seal head. Now there's a clip ring around the inside of there that's holding everything together. If you push down the seal head just a bit, and that'll expose that clip ring around the edge there. Alright, so that took a little finagling, but this is the snap ring that pops out of there. And then also on the bladder, what you do for that is you push this bladder down, and then there'll be a similar snap ring. I've already popped it loose, and there you go. So now that we got the snap rings out, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the bladder here. It basically just looks like mud inside this. There's the bladder out. We do have a new one to put in. You can go ahead and dump this nasty nasty shock fluid out. So now you have your bladder here attached to this cap. Basically, pop it off. Toss that one in the garbage. So now we're gonna work the whole piston body and everything out of there. God damn. So it took quite a bit of force there to get that body off. Unfortunately, now I've got old dirty shock fluid all over my floor. So the next thing we have to do is this nut right here up on top. So the end of the shaft here is peened over. So what we have to do is grind the edge of that peening off, and then we can remove this nut. So here's what it looks like. I already tried to get the nut off, and as you can see the end of the shaft there, it actually gets pulled through. So we did grind off enough. The rebuild kit actually comes with an extra nut, so we're all set there. Now since we've kind of ground into the end of the shaft here, what we have to do is just hand file a little bit around the edge. Alright, now just take off the tape and the rag. Then you want to grab a screwdriver and all these washers, I mean there's countless number of washers, you can slide onto the screwdriver, and that way you don't have to worry about keeping them in order. And everything you can pull off of there. Alright, so with this whole stack, you're going to want to grab your air compressor, blowouts, any of those filings that may have come off the end of the shaft there. Little bump stop, that's going in the garbage. Got a replacement one of those. Now our whole piston is actually a replacement for it in the Pivot Works kit, so you don't have to mess around with taking this apart and getting into the dust seals, replacing those or anything. Then we also have a couple replacement O-rings. Alright, so we can go ahead and start tossing a couple things back on here. Dust seal, and then this guy. This is where you can toss the screwdriver back on and slowly work all these washers and stuff back on here. So last we're going to top it off with our nut here and a little bit of thread locker on there, and go ahead and tighten that guy down. Peen the top. There's that all finished up. And I did go ahead and polish the clevis there. Just when I'm going to put the shock back together, I go to grab my shock fluid and realize A, I'm an idiot, B, it's not shock fluid, that's brake fluid sitting up on the shelf. Of course it's the weekend. So unfortunately I'll see you in a few days when I have it. Alright, more parts came in today. Got a few things I can do now. The linkage, all the fresh stuff we got right there. So we're gonna rebuild 2 linkage pieces and then the lower shock bearing. Only thing we're waiting on is shock fluid. Depending on editing, what's gonna happen, that shock will either be already built or I'll build it in a couple minutes. Today, I just took apart the carb, cleaned it all up. Gonna put that back together. I don't think I've even mentioned that, but the petcock I rebuilt just with new hardware, new O-rings, no longer leaks. Good thing. I've got good news. Shock fluid. So I just got back, bought 2 different bikes, and they're gonna be sweet builds. A KTM and a little Kawasaki. So that's always fun. Anyhow, now that we got the shock fluid, let's finally put this thing back together. So I got my my shock body mounted up in a vise here. At the start, we already undid our compression adjuster all the way out. That just makes it easier for fluid to flow from the shock body here into the reservoir. We're gonna fill up shock body and wait until we see fluid heading into reservoir here, and then this is a good way to kind of push it through. It'll also help air bubbles kind of escape out of there. Now in your reservoir, I would say go maybe just over 1/3. That way you don't have too much excess. Next, you want to take your bladder here and go ahead and drop that in. You do want fluid to pour out a bit, and that just ensures that there's no air bubbles that are going to be trapped in there. You just want to push it down far enough to reveal that groove in there, so we can put our C-clip in. Toss our C-clip in. So next we've got to put in our valve stem here. Alright, so we've got that in there, and what we want to do is pump this up by hand. Don't use a air compressor to like 40 to 50-ish PSI. I'm sitting at like 43 PSI. That's good enough. We're going to go ahead and fill that 1 inch, 2 inches or so from the top. Make sure that your entire assembly here, you've blown everything off with compressed air. And then go ahead and work this down into the shock body. In here, there's just going to be a bunch of bubbles working their way to the top. Kind of pump the shock here. Work it down. Try and compress as many bubbles as you can out of there. If you have some room left, go ahead and top off that with some shock fluid. Now you'll get to a point where you can no longer push this down anymore, and at that point just release some air out of here. Okay, should give you plenty of room, and what we're trying to do is just expose that groove once again so we can put our C-clip in there. So now that your C-clip is installed there, just add a little more air into the bladder. You'll see that seat, and then from there you can go ahead and put your cover on. That's seated. So next we can throw our spring on over the top. Make sure that your those spring nuts are all the way down so you don't get confused as to why nothing's fitting. Go ahead and drop that bumper. Get that collar on. That collar. Everything should be. Go ahead and tighten that top fork nut. Excuse me, spring nut. Our goal is to get this length of this spring back to the original measured length that we had, and mine is 10 inches. The spring, that is. And bam, we're pretty much right on the money there. And then tighten up your bottom nut here. And then lastly, what you need to do is you need to release all the air out of the bladder here. Why do you do that? Well, you have to charge this with nitrogen. Only a certified technician is allowed to do that. And unfortunately, I won't be able to make it into any type of shop soon. So there's my shock, all rebuilt. Should work a lot better. And also, the bearing is all replaced as well. I mean, I've got time. Might as well start putting this thing back together. First off, got a fresh one of these guys. I feel like this chain slider was not quite made for this particular swing arm. The chain adjuster bolts in there, and with this Little NEC is on there. Help the next guy out. Toss the old subframe on here. Really pains me that I could not go get this all powder coated. It would have looked so nice if I powder coated all this, the frame and subframe. Ooh, that's gonna look good. Fresh Mika Metals bars. This bend, if you care, it's the CR High. Unfortunately, that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next episode, this thing should be finished up. I should be out ripping it. Basically just have to put the rest of the bike together. Last few finishing touches, decals here and there. I still have to wait with that rear shock to get some nitrogen in it. I'll do a nice little first ride of it out in the woods and then hopefully sell it here at the end of the year. Like usual, down in the description, plenty of links. You might notice a new link down there. It takes you to Wild Moto Shop. If you want, check that out. Just a new little project that I got going. And other than that, I got nothing for you. So thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.